In this video, we will discuss arrays as arguments and how to use arrays with methods. And I'm going to use an example that we just had, which is how to print an array. And if you notice in this example, after each array, whenever we want to print it, what we do is that we put these three lines, which is a loop that iterates over the elements of an array, and it starts to print that one by one. And this is a perfect example because after each array that we had here, we had to use these three lines to print the array. Here is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that doesn't make any sense. That's redundant. It's a waste of, or it's just cluttering our method without being very useful. And instead, what we want to do is to have a method that is going to take an array. So for example, I give it array1 and it's going to print array1. Then later on for the same method, I give it array2 and it's going to print array2 and so on. So that would make it more efficient and practical. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to go to here, and I had this already written actually, but we can actually write it from scratch in this case. All right, so what we will do is that we will say here is public, or we could even make it private, make it static so we can reference it or use it or call it from the static main method. And this is going to return nothing, and we will call it, for example, print array. All right, and it's going to take a array of double, and I'm going to call it input array, for example. And so this is a method that is going to take the input array and it's going to print. So what I'm hoping to do here is that if I want to print array1, I'm going to replace all of this code with just array1 or print array1. All right, and I would do the same thing with this one here, array2. All right, and again here. So this is array 2 still, it was array 1 actually here, and then we have array 3 here. Before I do that, so we don't have to rewrite the whole thing, I could actually go here and say, okay, here, and this is what I want to print. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to have this enhanced for loop, which is going to define a double val, and it's going to loop over input array, and what it's going to do is to print this. Of course, I could customize this more, and I could say something like first it's going to print a opening square bracket, right? And then here it could go and print a single closing bracket, right? It's not going to be perfect because here in the system, in the for loop, we are going to actually print the space after, so it's not going to be perfect, but it could work. So if I run this one here, all right, so we could actually make a print line here. So this way we guarantee it's going to make a new line. There we go. All right, so it's printing. You can see there is an extra space here. You could make it systematic by adding another one here, right? Or you could even make your loop more sophisticated that asks if it's the first element, then make a closing, an opening bracket. Then if it's the last element, print the last element without a space and then closing bracket. So here, if you noticed, what happened is that we pass an array. So there's nothing new really here. We have an array 1, which is a reference variable, and what we are going to do is that we are going to pass array 1 to the method, which is going to take this and process or work with it, and then that's it, done. All right, now again, similar to any objects that are passed as arguments to methods, you have to remember that what is really being passed is the value, which is the value of the address. All right. So in this case here, you have something like this: array 1, which has address 1, pointing to whatever array that you have, right? Could be anything here. And then you go and say, for example, here, print array 1, right? So that's the line that we have. Now, if I go back to this code, print array 1, what is really happening is that input array here is going to temporarily take the same address as array 1. All right, so if I have input array here, it will have address 1, which is pointing to the same object in the memory. All right, so this means again that within that array here, I could simply go and change the input array. So if I say input array, all right, of 0 is equal to 1000. All right. So in this case, that would actually change the contents of the array to be 1000, whatever that array is. All right, all of them, array 1, array 2, array 3, all of them will be changed. The first element will be changed to 1000. So again, if you remember, this is something we talked about, and we said if you want to protect, for some reason, the contents of this array, then you will need to pass a copy of the array instead of the actual array. Honestly, this was not the actual example that I had to explain arrays as arguments. I had a completely different example. But then as I was explaining copying arrays, I found that we had this inconvenience of trying to print arrays. And then I thought, you know what, this is where we could build a method that deals with array. So the next example that I'm going to give is going to be something that is more complicated, which is dealing with arrays and editing arrays and then returning arrays. So if you remember, we had the temp converter old, right? This is the code that we had before, which was a very nice method here, right? So if you remember, we had ctemp ftemp. Ctemp is equal to 10. Ftemp is equal to ctemp c2f of ctemp. All right, and that was changing or switching one or converting one temperature, and that was nice. Then later on we said, you know what, we would like to have an array of ctemp, and we would like to change or convert that ctemp into an array of ftemp, which can be accessible later on. All right, so that was what we had before. And to make that work, we had something like this, and array required but double found. So that is because I think I did not uncomment the whole thing. So here we go. Yeah. Compile ctemp is already defined, then we don't need this line here. All right. So that is the example that we had a couple of lectures ago. We had an array of ctemp, 10 elements. We had an array of ftemp, 10 elements, and both of them are double. And then what we did is that we assigned I to the ctemp of I, right? So basically here we are assigning in ctemp 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 9. And then what we did is that we said this ith element of ctemp is going to be passed as an input, as a single variable, to a C2F method, which takes a single double element and convert it to Fahrenheit, and then it returns that as a double, which then we assign to the ith element of the ftemp array. So that's the example that we had before. Now this means that we have to process element by element from the main method. Now what we want to show in this example here is what if, and instead of doing this, I would just give C to F a complete array of C temp. All right, and then what I will say is that do your work and then give me or return to me an array of F temp. All right, so you take care of this whole conversion process and just return to me a clean array of double that contains all the converted temperatures. So this is exactly the difference, that the change that we want to do in this video. And that would be very simple. It's what you want to do is that for C to F, it takes an array of double now. And instead of returning a single double value, it's going to return an array of double values. Then what will happen here is that the main method should be or should become a little bit simpler, right? So here, for example, I'm going to prompt the user what is enter the maximum degree. Then I will take this value and then I set an array C temp with this maximum, and then I go and assign values from 0 to whatever that maximum is, all right, which was defined here as the array size. So that then I can get it again from the C temp dot length, all right, or I could use the max temp, right? And this way I'm assigning i's to the C temp of I, all right. Then what I want to do, which is slightly different from what we had before, is that I go and say I would like a double F temp array to be the output of C to F that takes a whole array of C temp. All right, and that line of code here replaces all of this part. Yep, all of this part, right? Which just the conversion here without the printing. Then later on, now that I have the F temp as an array that is returning from that method, I'm going to print this one by one, which I could actually I could use that method here, the nice method that we had here, to go and display it. All right, but I'm going to keep that here for now, just to keep things simple. All right, now what is going to work here? How is C to F is going to operate on C temp as an array? Let's have a look at it. Now C to F takes C as an array of doubles, and then what it does that it creates a temporary array, all right, which is of type double, and then what it does is that it goes and perform the same functionality that we had here, which is looping over the elements of the C one by one, converting it one by one, and assigning the output to the ith or equivalent or corresponding ith element in the temp array. Then after it populates temp array with the values, it goes and returns that temp array reference variable to the main method, which is going to be assigned to ftemp. All right, so notice here that it's not magic. You're not going to send an array to C to F and it's going to do that instantly. The same complexity that you had here, which is the loop that goes over element by element in the C temp, you're going to have the same complexity. However, that complexity was moved from the main method to keep the main method simple, and that complexity just moved to a specialized method called C to F to take care of it. All right, so this way you are delegating that functionality to the C to F method. All right, so here you need to understand what is happening. You have C to F, C temp. It's an array in the memory. It becomes C pointing to the same C temp, and then C dot length is going to be the same size of C temp, and then you create an equivalent temp array, and then temp array is going to be assigned one by one as you iterate over C. And this way you are returning that reference variable, the address, by value to ftemp. So now ftemp is pointing to that array in the memory. All right, so even though this should be clear, I'm going to just do a quick sketch to explain that. All right. So here I'm going to choose something that is more clear. So we have here C temp, we have F temp, or it's F temp, right? Something here. Let's call this address 1, 2, and at this point, C temp is defined to be to whatever maximum temp is entered by the user, which makes it some flexibility there. Nice. So C temp is actually pointing to an array in the memory, which goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to max temp minus 1. All right. Now this loop here is assigning the values from 0 to max temp minus 1, right? Which is the ctemp.length is equivalent to max temp. So it goes from 0 to max temp minus 1, and that is assigned to I. So that means the I here in the ctemp is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to max temp minus 1. Now that doesn't have to be the case. I could say, for example, here offset this whole thing by 10. So I could do something like this. So now this means this is going to be 10, 11, 12, 13, max temp minus 1 plus 10, something like that. All right, so this is something to just keep in mind. So here I'm just going to return this to the origin. All right, then what happens next is that I go and say, perfect, now C to F with C temp. Now C to F has C, right? So here we have C. All right, and now C temp will be mapped to C, so this means C will also have address 1, which is going to be pointing to the same array here. Now, what will happen inside C to F is that I'm going to create temp array. So now we have a reference variable, temp array, which is going to be a completely new array with the same length as C. So that is going to be, let's say, address 3. All right, and notice here that at this point, this is ftemp is not really pointing to anything, it's just holding, waiting for the output. So that is pointing to an array of the same length, which goes from 0, 1, 2, all the way up to max temp minus 1. All right, and it's empty, so that's just new double, so all of these are set to zeros at this point. Then what will happen is that I will iterate over C, right, from 0 to C dot length minus 1, 1 less, and then I'm going to take the values one by one and I'm going to assign temp array. All right, so in this case here I go and take the value 0, go and convert it, it gives me 32. Then I go take the value 1, it becomes 33 point something. All right, and I start editing or modifying these values one by one, and then I'm going to get my array here populated. So temp array now has the converted values to F, the Fahrenheit temperatures. Now once I'm done, I'm going to return temp array. What I'm really returning is address 3. So I return this here, which is going to be assigned to F temp, right, which makes this address 3, right? So this means now ftemp is going to be pointing to the same array here. Now, since this temp array was part of a method that is now not working anymore after returning the value, this link is gone, right? And now we have ftemp pointing to that array in the memory. All right, of course, just to make things clear, there's no here actual link, it's just a conversion. All right, and again, that link also goes after the method. so you don't have this anymore. For some reason it's not typing or sketching. So that C also is gone, and you have just ctemp pointing to this. Now ftemp is pointing to the converted array. So that's how you use arrays with methods. How you can pass array as an input, process it, return, and so on. So that's it.